Whatever happened to my Transylvania Twist? Ah. Ah. This is better. Ladies and gentlemen, for this Multi-Voice-Oween, and for those of you who don't know who I am Dracula. And for the day's review I'm going to do for you today, for this Multi-Voice-Oween, I'm going to review for you a movie made way back in 1989. And the executive producer of this movie is Roger Corman. And the movie I'm going to review for you today is Transylvania Twist. That's why I was wondering whatever happened to my Transylvania Twist. But here it is. Transylvania Twist. The executive producer is Roger Corman. Made back in 1989. Same year as that Tim Burton Batman was made. Anyway, let's get to the story, shall we? It all started where there was a funeral. A man who goes by the name of Ephraim Ward, played by Joy Robinson, they thought he was dead. And they were having a funeral, and you'll be seeing some Renner Reapers. You know, the one who are hired to weep over the dead, or he's crying in the funeral. They don't know the person, they're just hired to mourn over them in the funeral. You know, there are some people who are like that in funerals. Somebody who is hired to mourn over the dead during the funeral. And then this boy named Dexter Ward called on his uncle, and it turns out his uncle wasn't dead. They mistaked him as dead. And his uncle said, "Get me the heck out of this coffin and take me back to the library." And then in the story, his uncle told him that there was a book of evil. It was owned by the family who goes by the last name of Orlok. What, they don't use Dracula, so they use Orlok? Must be a huge fan of Nosferatu. But here's one thing I also remembered in the beginning. There was this beautiful girl right here who is being chased by Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. Even though he doesn't have a glove with claws, he has a glove with pulling chairs, bottle openers, and other things. Talk about a Swiss Army glove. Going after her, but he killed them. It turns out she's a vampire. And she called them amateurs. Her name is Patty, but she prefers to be called Patricia. And she was played by this lovely actress who goes by the name of Monique Gabrielle. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, I think you should look her up on Bachelor Party. You know, she was the one who was trying to vamp Tom Hanks, and she took off her top, showing her talents. But very nice. It's just too bad she doesn't do much acting in most movies. She always keep on appearing in other movies that are B-rated, and then she appeared in erotic movies, and now porn. And that's all I heard about her. What a waste. Anyway. Dexter Ward's uncle told Dexter that he needs to go to California because it turns out that the Book of Evil was owned by Lawrence Orlock, played by Howard Morris. Some of you may remember Howard Morris. He was in the Sid Caesar show and a lot of comedies. Heck, he even played the father on the Jerry Lewis Nutty Professor movie. And now they said that he passed away, so Dexter needs to contact her latest daughter, Marissa Orlock, who is a singer and an actress. And she was making a music video that she loves to go do action and excitement and adventures. And it was really funny when she threw a pie on the Ayatollah lookalike. I wish those Arab countries should lighten up. They start taking over everything. Anyway, Marissa Orlock is played by this lovely actress here. Terry Copley. Now, one thing I should know about Terry Copley is that after she did she acted in a couple of movies and a few TV shows, and then after that she quit acting, got married, and became a born-again Christian. No skin off my nose. And then all of a sudden Dexter Ward starts falling in love for Marissa, and she starts liking his sense of humor, his comedy ways. And therefore they decided to go all the way to Transylvania to contact her father, who died. And I like when they went to Transylvania airport, there are a bunch of bellboy zombies. And the New York taxi driver, he said, the zombies. They look like Keith Richards, don't they? Yeah, they're dead, they're all messed up. Not a Living Dead reference. I love other horror movie reference in this movie. Like the time when they show the Transylvania acupuncture. You know, where they stick those pins in you, and out comes Pinhead. And they say, I don't care what anybody says, this hurts. Well, having all those pins all over their head, of course it would hurt. Jerk. Anyway, they finally ended up into the bar, where there's a lot of villagers who are still afraid over the Orlock family. And then here's this one vampire hunter who goes by the name of Victor Van Helsing. And that's him right there, played by Ace Mask. That is his name, Ace Mask. His name is Victor Van Helsing. And he decided to help them along their journey into the castle. Now, the one thing I got to say about David Ward, who's played by Stephen Altman. That's him right here. The reason why he's in this movie is because he does impressions. But if you ask me, Multi-Voice Reviewer does better impressions than this guy. I mean, some of his impressions are okay, but he should leave it to the professionals. And after they finally went to the castle, they met their servant named Stefan. Now, for those of you who may not recognize the actor who played Stefan, he's played by Angus Scrim. Angus Scrim. Skrimm. And some of you may not recognize him, but he played the tall man from Phantasm. You know. You play a good game, boy. Now you die. And they did make that reference in this movie, when he showed up with a sphere in his hand and say, "You play a good game, boy." And then they met the owner of the castle named Lord Byron Orlock, played by Robert Vaughn. And it turns out that he's supposed to be inheriting his brother's money, but the last thing he got from his brother is Dear Craphead. Turns out his brother really hates him. And of course, during the video of the Will and Testament, it turns out that he gives all of his wealth to Marissa. So that peed him off that he blew up the TV with his bazooka. What do you know? Mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes. They're bigger bloodsuckers than I am. Anyway. Here's this one interesting scene in this movie, where Dexter had been exploring the castle to see where Marissa's room is at, and he got into this one room where you see Boris Karloff. But of course, this is a stock footage. They use stock footage in this movie, and the stock footage they use is The Terror, starring Boris Karloff and Jack Nicholson. And you can see Boris Karloff saying the same lines. I mean, they just reused the scene from The Terror in this movie. Saying, "You think I'm going mad, don't you? Perhaps we're both mad." Well, I prefer Jack Nicholson myself. Well, Sparky, if you ever wanted to have your career started, you better stick with Roger Corman, because he can jumpstart your career and no problem at all. Well, that is my part. Now I have to get going, because sooner or later, I got another movie to do before I die. You got to love Jack Nicholson. Yeah, one more thing I want to try. Let me ask you something. You ever dance with the devil by the pale moonlight? I answered that with all my prey. I just like the sound of it. Never rub a man's rhubarb. Here's Johnny. Oh, Jack Nicholson. Gotta love him. Anyway, back to the story. Sooner or later, all of a sudden, Patricia, the vampire girl here, she sneaks up to Van Helsing's room in his dreams, and all of a sudden, she bit him. And as he looked himself into the reflection, he noticed 2 tail puncture marks on his neck. And then he starts noticing the fangs he grows, like this. Like that. But he did exactly what I did. He pricked his finger, started sucking his blood, and and his reflection started to disappear. Looks like Van Helsing now likes being a vampire. You know, I wish there are more Van Helsing who would be okay being a vampire. At least I like to have a vampire Van Helsing on my side, and not be such a mortal enemy to me. But beggars can't be choosers, right? Although Victor Van Helsing did a lot of funny things. I mean, there was that one scene where there were two grave robbers about ready to rob a grave, but the body that they were stealing from was a vampire. And Victor Van Helsing showed up and staked him. And after he staked him, blood spewed right in front of his face like a water hose, just psh. And of course he went to a flashback where he was a teenager, where he met the girl. And she said, I'm only 19. And he said, why, that's not old. And she said, 1900. And he was like, that's old. And then he said, before we bite, at least let me have a drink before that. And then when she took a sip, all of a sudden, she died with blood spewing out of her mouth. And he says, holy water. Don't leave home without it. Well, anyway. And then Van Helsing and Dexter decide to do a seance on Marissa, and she starts getting possessed by her ancestor. You see, there was a portrait who looks just like her, but it was her great-great-grandmother. And now she's being possessed by her great-grandmother. But at the same time, Dexter gets all chained up and use him as a human sacrifice, while the Baron was using the book to bring out hell upon the world. And he started to turn himself into a demon. You know, I hate it when vampires turn into demons. I find that to be insulting. But at the same time, Marissa had been possessed by her great-great-grandmother. I guess she got repossessed. Anyway, she finally battled against him. And then all of a sudden, a great big monster starts showing up on top of the castle. You may recognize the monster. They reuse him in other movies. It's the same monster they use in one of Roger Corman's best movies. It Conquered the World. That sci-fi movie. You know, Multi-Voice Reviewer should review that movie one of these days. He should. Anyway, Marissa Orlok finally destroyed the Baron and the monster. And it turns out that her father wasn't dead, he had catalepsy. So now, he decided to go spearfishing and let Marissa take over the castle. And of course, as for Van Helsing, he's going to like living his life as a vampire. With that vampire girl Patty, or Patricia, sorry. So, they all live happily ever after. And that is Transylvania Twist for you. Now, I don't know about you, but this was definitely a kind of comedy I would love to sink my teeth into. Hey, I did ask whatever happened to my Transylvania Twist, but here it is. Well, I am Count Dracula. And telling you, if you like this review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. As for me, I gotta go. But I will be back for another Multi-Voice-Oween.